Week after week, opponent after opponent, Ohio State's defense keeps proving why it's the backbone of this team.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Tuesday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, veteran sports talk host, delivering passionate coverage about your Buckeyes, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. During today's show, we will discuss the importance of young Bucks getting game experience, as well as if there's room for improvement with the Buckeyes defense. But first, week after week, opponent after opponent, Ohio State's defense keeps proving why it's the backbone of this team. And this is a team with Julian Sand, who is the best quarterback in the country, with a guy like Jeremiah Smith and Cardinal Tate on the outside, who are the best two receivers in the country, a guy in the backfield in Bo Jackson, who is getting better and more comfortable week after week after week. And the defense is still the backbone of the team. Absolutely, because when you look at this defense and what they have done, no matter if it was against Texas, or if it's against Purdue, or if it's against Penn State, doesn't matter who it is. We look at this defense and how they literally suffocate the oxygen and the energy away from the other team so that they aren't able to get comfortable at all, and they are really scratching and fighting and crawling and going deep into their playbook, trying to get plays that work, but they don't. Because up front, these guys are getting more athletic. The interior of the D-line might be more athletic than a lot of people thought it was going to be. Edric Houston knifing in the backfield and creating some havoc that led to a tackle for loss for Arvell Reese. You have Caden McDonald, who is a quick big man in the middle that is very hard to slow down, to contain, and do anything with, because he is so powerful and so quick, and his first two steps and his first pop makes you just fall backwards because he does it in a way that most other guys can't. You think about the guys on the outside and Caden Curry and Keanu Jackson Jr., as they're getting more reps together and as they're getting more playing time in an extended way, what are you finding? You can't take them off the field. A healthy Keanu Jackson Jr. can't come off the field. The linebackers, maybe the best LB duo in the country, and the secondary continues to be better and better and prove why they are the best in America. This defense has everything you want from a defense to have a championship caliber defense. That's what Ohio State has right now. This team has been attacking a national championship since the offseason. Since the time after they won the one last year, they have been attacking another one. And the leaders, Curry and Downs and Igmanosa and others, they are the driving force and the leaders in the pursuit and the attacking of another natty. Well, while you're attacking another natty, it would be very, very easy to have a mental letdown game or to have a physical letdown game where, you could just kind of mail it in and kind of relax a little bit, kick your feet up, and we can allow a touchdown here or a touchdown there. That's not happening. There's no desire of anybody on that defense, the starting 11 or those that are key backups, to allow anybody on the other side of the line of scrimmage to get any traction or to gain any confidence. And it's happening week after week after week. You can look at the Purdue numbers and look at how Purdue, their passing numbers were pretty poor, where Purdue only passed for 94 yards and threw one touchdown. That was in the latter part of the game. Purdue rushed for 92 yards on 4.2 yards a pop. Well, here are some numbers that I think may blow your mind, because it just talks about how dominant Ohio State's defense has been. There's only been one team that's averaged more than 5.0 or 5.0 yards per play or more. That's Texas. Texas averaged 5.0 yards a play. Let's go to Big Ten numbers. Washington averaged 4.4. Minnesota, 3.2. Illinois, 4.2. Wisconsin, 3.1. Penn State, 3.3. And Purdue, 4.2. So when I say that Ohio State's defense is staggering and how dominant they have been week after week, opponent after opponent, when you're holding everybody to 5.0 or less yards per play, my goodness, that's stuff that you don't even really think about, because in comparison, Ohio State's offense isn't normal, but Ohio State's offense is averaging 7.0 yards a play. They averaged 6.2 yards a play against Purdue. Week before against Penn State, 8.7, 7.0 against Wisconsin. And you get the gist. Ohio State's defense is elite. And you would think against Washington, who has elite players, Minnesota, who can do some things that can trip you up, Illinois, who has Luke Altmaier. There are teams up, Penn State with Katron Allen. There are teams that have really good players. And Ohio State's defense is saying, nah, not on our watch. Nah, not while we're on the field. And I think that's just a small glimpse, a little bit of a sign that Ohio State's defense is doing some things that are very historic. Add to the fact that they have not really allowed anybody to get any traction or to score at all. There's only been two teams, well, three teams now, that have scored 10 points or more. Purdue shouldn't have, but we all know how that happened. Illinois scored 16 points. Penn State scored 14. Purdue scored 10. Outside of that, everybody else has scored 9 or less, and the Buckeyes have two shutouts, one against Grambling, and the other was on the road in Camp Randall. In Camp Randall, a place that's really weird to play, and it's a tough environment. And you go in there, you score 34, they score 0, and it's like, oh, it's just clockwork. Ohio State's defense goes on the road, takes over the stadium, and the next thing you know, the opposing offense can't do anything. That's how it was against Purdue, but they scored that touchdown latter part of the fourth quarter in the final minutes against Ohio State's backups that we'll touch on later in the show, because I think it was a key moment for some very important younger players on the team. But this game in particular proved once again that Ohio State's not just going to be going through the motions and having a walk in the park. Remember what happened in 2018? Ohio State rolled in there. It was a night game. Tyler Trent was being recognized. And the next thing you know, Ohio State could not find a way to contain Rondell Moore. They couldn't. It's 2018. 2017, the Iowa game. I know I watched the game. I don't have a memory of that game. Maybe it's one of those where I blacked out because Ohio State went to the black hole and didn't come out with a W. But that was a game where you're like, man, 2015 against Michigan State. Was it the players or the coaches? You can decide. I know in the moment, I remember my emotions. I remember my thoughts after the game, even in the game, where I'm a little confused as to why Ezekiel Elliott wasn't getting the ball. Now, I don't know what happened behind the scenes. I don't remember if there were some disciplinary actions that happened in the week that maybe carried over while Zeke was still on the field. I don't know. But Ohio State's team in defense at times has had some letdown games. Think about Oregon in 2021. Ohio State was better than Oregon. Oregon wasn't amazing, but what happened? Ohio State's defense couldn't keep contained. They were having some time struggling to tackle some pretty shifty guys on Oregon's team. Oregon won the game. You don't see any of those letdowns or trap games happening with Ohio State at all. Not this year. It would have been very easy to go to Camp Randall and to kind of mail it in and just walk in. Oh, okay, they can score 20 points and we can still win 34-20. That didn't happen. Didn't happen at all. Oh, Purdue, they played it close against Michigan. They couldn't get anything going against Ohio State. Penn State, who is trying to do everything they can and go deep into the bag of tricks to make sure that they can play spoiler to Ohio State. No. Their prayers weren't going to be answered because Ohio State's defense was going to interfere with them. Ohio State's defense is doing things this year that are shaping up for them to be a force down the stretch. UCLA this week, Rutgers the following week, a trip to Ann Arbor the following week, and if everything goes the way we think it will, a trip to Indianapolis for the shot to win a Big Ten title for the first time since 2020. And this defense being the backbone and being better. The defense is better than how the passing game has been. The defense is better than the duo of Tate and Smith. The defense is better, we know it is, in the running game because the running game is getting better, but it's not the defense. The defense continues to be the backbone of this team, and it's why Ohio State is currently sitting where they are, atop the country in all the polls, and they have a good shot to accomplish all their goals in 2025. While Ohio State's defense has been great this season, there might be room for improvement, and we will discuss if there is after the break. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Guys, we're in the midst of another thrilling college football season, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, they're just nothing like it. But let's be real. actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I pulled up Game Time, and in just a couple taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football games as low as $25. The app made it super simple. I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying. I love zone deals too. Pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save big. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. That's promo code LCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Thank y'all for tapping and Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day and making Locked On the number one sports podcast network. Speaking of number one, Ohio State's defense is number one in many of your hearts because of how dominant they have been this season. We hit on it a little bit, a few of the numbers from the season about how Ohio State's defense has been dominant, but has it been perfect? I don't think I would say perfect. I would say that it's been great this season. And a perfect defense, well, it could be perfect, but I think based off the way that we have seen Ohio State play football, there is still room for improvement. And part of the improvement comes up front. Now, I'm not discussing players being fully healthy. It's Houston has been banged up, and K Jack's been banged up, and K Mac's been banged up. I mean, there's been a lot of guys that have been banged up this year. No. One thing I want to see from this team this weekend, when Nico Iamaleava and the UCLA Bruins come to town, is them getting after the quarterback with a relentless pursuit. None of this, let's keep the guy in the pocket and let's not let him get outside and keep contained. You can do that and sack the quarterback at the same time. I'm not here breaking news or we don't need a red flashing light or the red emoji that gets your attention, and we don't need a siren from a fire truck making all that noise. I was very, very close to trying to replicate or make that sound that a fire truck makes, but I didn't want to. I paused because I was like, man, I could mess up, say the wrong sound, and I could get in my own head. And I start to wonder if there are times that Ohio State's pass rush, if the players start getting in their own head and they don't fully go all out. I know they go all out, but there are times where I'm thinking, man, you guys are too talented to not go after the quarterback. Think about the Penn State game. In the Penn State game, and even the Indiana game from a year ago, there were times that you watch Ohio State play in the Indiana game specifically last year. There were times where they were just kind of not going all out and blitzing, and Jim Knowles not dialing up the right calls. He was dialing up the right calls, but it was almost like, we're going to bait you into what we want you to do. And the next thing you know, Cody Simon coming in like a missile. Bam! Sack. You get Sonny Styles making big plays. You get other guys getting in the backfield. Tui Maloa and Sawyer being madmen. You got that over and over and over. So I'm watching a Purdue game, and I went back and watched portions of it from a different angle than what was on the Big Ten Network, and I noticed that it confirmed what I saw in the game. And there were other times this year where Ohio State's defensive linemen got to the quarterback, and a four-man rush was plenty. But there were times that they just try to keep containing. They don't try to go all out. And there are times when they do that, you see guys like Caden Curry and Houston, that's a couple of guys there, that are running, sprinting to get the quarterback. And I'm thinking, if y'all just collapsed the pocket and got to the quarterback, you would say, now it would take a little bit of extra effort, but the reward would be oh so much fun to celebrate and to look up and think, man, I got me another sack. And that is the one area that I think Ohio State's defense needs to, the biggest area. I still think there are times up the seam and pass coverage can be a problem. I wonder how they may try to use some more confusing coverages like they did earlier in the year. I don't know if they really are trying to disguise and do things very confusing right now because of who they play. I mean, Purdue wasn't good. I'm not here trying. Like you guys know, I try to hype up different opponents. There have been times when I've watched teams play Ohio State. I'm like, oh, I have more respect for that team than I did before the game started. Purdue is who I thought they were. A team that was nowhere close to being on Ohio State's level. Actually, one of the weird things about this game that I didn't touch on yesterday was that Purdue's fans were cheering the entire time, even heard an overrated chant. And I know that came through on the TV broadcast, I believe. And I'm sitting there thinking, y'all only have 2 wins. You're saying overrated? Do you realize that Ryan Day and Brian Hartline aren't calling a game where you think, oh, if they called their best game, Purdue wouldn't have scored and Ohio State probably would have had 60 points? And this is not just me being trying to gloat and just ride with the symbol on my hat here. No, it's being real. Ohio State's defense, even without Carnote, could have scored 60 points, and it could have shut out Purdue. I'm just saying. That's how good Ohio State is, and that's how drastic the difference is between these two programs. But man, the boys are out there keeping the vibes high, man. I look up, it's in the fourth quarter. They about to receive a kickoff, and I look up, they got the towels, they're waving them up and down. The fans getting loud for the kickoff, and I'm thinking, but y'all are getting stumped. Y'all are getting beat down. And y'all are here just about the vibes, man. Let's get this game over with. Let's go hop in the shower. Let's go to my girl's house and let's go to my girl's apartment. Let's get this party and let's get this thing rolling. That's what they were all about in that game. When you could tell there was a difference between the vibes of Purdue and the vibes of Ohio State. There's vibes for everybody. But Purdue's was very much, let's keep the energy up. Let's keep everybody's spirits high. And Ohio State's like business trip. It was a business trip to West Lafayette. But also, that matches what Ohio State has done all season long. In every game against Texas, on the road at Camp Randall, on the road to Husky Stadium, it doesn't matter where you're playing or who you're playing. Every game is a business trip. It's a time for you to prove that you are getting better. And I think for this Buckeyes defense right now, I wouldn't be shocked. And I'm not here trying to project anything, but I would not be shocked if the sack leader on the team right now, who is Caden Curry with 7, I would not be shocked if by the end of the game against Michigan, he has 11 sacks. I wouldn't be shocked if the leader in tackles for loss on the team right now, which is also Caden Curry with 10.5, Arvell Reese is right behind him with 10. I would not be shocked if both of them have 14 or 15 TFLs, and I would really more than that. It should be 16 or 17 TFLs. And I wouldn't be shocked if they both had, because Arvell Reese has 6.5 sacks in a season. I wouldn't be shocked if both of them were up in the 11-12 range. I'm not joking. I know it's a big jump for Arvell Reese. I have a big feeling, especially against Michigan, they're going to send that man on a lot of blitzes, and they're going to use him as a missile. Wherever he goes, you better have your eyes on him, because once your eyes are on him, that's going to be another Buckeye is coming to take you down. Trust me, I got a good feeling with the game in Ann Arbor. While everybody, I believe right now, should be, I won't say a tad nervous, be wondering about the mental state. You should wonder about the mental state of Ohio State players. You should absolutely do that, because it's been more of a mental game than a physical game. But if they get to keep their minds right and if they keep every game like a business trip and they treat that game the same thing and they don't allow their emotions to overtake them, then Ohio State will beat Michigan by 10 plus points. And I might just out here throwing a number. They could easily beat Michigan by 20 because of how good this team is, because how many weapons they have on offense, because how efficient this team is. But defensively, they have found ways to slow down everybody. And I got a good feeling they're going to slow down the Wolverines Thanksgiving weekend. You know who's not going to slow down the Wolverines Thanksgiving weekend? A lot of young Bucks. Because there are a lot of young Buckeyes that got a lot of run against Purdue. And those are some valuable minutes and that was valuable game experience for the guys and their development in Columbus, Ohio. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Once again, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you all for tapping Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day and making Locked On the number one sports podcast network. Speaking of number one, there might be some young Buckeyes that are playing on defense or offense that might be number one in your heart. I mean, Gabe Van Sickle wasn't a super young guy, but I believe he's in his second year. He got some valuable reps when the Buckeyes started to play more guards. And Ethan Onianwa, who was not a super young Buck, but young in his experience as a Buckeye, he got some valuable game reps and experience this past weekend as well. You add in Isaiah West moving up the depth chart. You add in guys like Bryson Rogers and Mylan Graham and Quincy Porter getting some run on the offensive side of the ball. All five tight ends played. That's some valuable reps for guys like Jelani Thurman and Nate Roberts and Bennett Christian. Well, some of them have played quite a bit. Those reps and that experience matters. On defense, it was fun to see Bo Atkinson out there and Joshua Mickens out there as well. Bo Atkinson's not new, not young, but he's new as a Buckeye. I really enjoy seeing the young guys, a Cade Stover out there, a Leroy Roker out there playing football and getting that experience because that's valuable for your development as a player. You can only do so much during a practice. If I am Ryan Day, I'm not spending my time on a third string corner. I'm spending my time on IGB, Devin Sanchez, Lorenzo Styles, and also Matthews Jr. That's where my attention is going. If you're the third string corner, you better hope you get better on scout team because you're not going to get reps running our stuff. You're going to run their stuff because we need you to help us get better and prepare for the upcoming game. Same thing for Liga Canholz, where he's not a super young buck. He's young in his experience. Where he got a few plays, a little cup of coffee. This past week, he scored a touchdown, and I saw how excited he was and the yell of jubilation because he was able to get into the end zone. And I don't really know if I'm on board with the two. No, I do know. I'm not on board with the two QB system. I'm not on board with them even having a QB package for Lincoln Canholz to keep him locked in. I don't know. No, I do know. I'm not a fan of it. I'll never be a fan of a two QB system. Talked to my buddy here locally that I talk about high school football quite a bit, and I say, look, man, there's a school here locally that does some things with the quarterbacks I'm not a big fan of. I am not the coach. It works for them. I know it works for them, but I don't think that's the best way for your team to be the most successful. I do believe for these young guys that experience matters. Also, getting a little experience on the field, it might keep you from hopping into the portal. Because there are going to be a lot of guys, especially with Ohio State recruiting, flipping a guy like Legend Bay, who's going to be a phenomenal running back at Ohio State, based off, assuming the development goes like people think it's going to. My goodness, these are some young guys that are going to need a lot of experience, a lot of reps to make sure that this is the right spot for them. There's a guy, James Peoples is someone that has fallen down the depth chart when people were projecting him that this is going to be his year. And I know Donaldson has been more of a short yardage guy, and his yards per carry and touches may reflect that move for him. But still, those two guys need reps. Donaldson still needs some run with their starting offensive line because he's been jumped by Bo Jackson and Isaiah West. Isaiah West needs some reps because he was hurt at the beginning of the year, and so he's finally getting his footing as a player. And ball security is big, pass pro is big. I saw Bo Jackson whiff on a block. He's your starter, but that whiff against Purdue, that's a coachable moment. And those coachable moments are going to be big for the future of Bo Jackson and the other Buckeyes. Think about what happened in the final drive in the game against Purdue. Purdue goes down the field. They got the backup. Ohio State has their backups in. The next thing you know, Purdue ended up scoring. It was a 75-yard touchdown drive in the final minutes of the game, where you may say it was meaningless, and maybe I think someone said it was a backdoor cover because I don't really remember the the spread off the top of my head. But I do know this: while Purdue scored, and it was against the backups, that's a moment that could be used as a coachable moment, and also that is a moment that can be used to really develop the young players. And that's what you want. You want to find ways to get guys on the field to not just keep them out of the portal, but for the future of your program. Think about in 2021. Now, this is a little bit of a different experience, different conversation, but 2021, I believe Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave didn't play in the Rose Bowl. They opted to not play to prepare for the upcoming NFL draft to their careers as pros. And Marvin Harrison Jr. got thrown into the fire. And what did he do? He came out shining, shining as bright as he could for a young man that had a lot of promise. People thought he was going to be a big, 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 big receiver for Ohio State, which he was. But man, in 2021, you saw that young man get the football, and you're like, oh, that dude is real. Now he's not like his daddy, because Marvin Harrison is not that big. He is not that tall. He's muscular. He is strong, but Marv a little bit different, man. I don't call the man Maserati Marv like Gus Johnson does. That's Gus's thing. My thing is, look at Marv. A Marv different. Marv got some different qualities about him as a football player, even so different that he made that quarter from the Dallas Cowboys fall. I was talking to someone about that earlier today, and they were talking about, I think it was Ohio State receiver specifically, and they were talking about Njigba and I think Abuka. And the next thing you know, they talk about, well, it was one receiver for Arizona who made that guy fall. And I was like, oh, you mean Marvin Harrison Jr.? He was like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. He said there was CD Lamb on the sideline that looked up there and just started laughing because his teammate fell. Well, Marvin Harrison Jr. got some valuable experience in that year in the Rose Bowl. Now, that's a little bit of a different experience for him because he wasn't expected to even do that. But that was a big part of his development as a player. And I think moving forward, should be able to get some guys to get some run that are young players against UCLA this coming Saturday. And then the following Saturday, that same thing should happen against Rutgers. I don't believe the Young Bucks are going to play against Michigan. Not at all. Nope, nope, nope. The game is too physical. The game means way too much. Even if it's an Ohio State win, even if they get up 30, which I'm not even going to say they're going to do that, but if they get up 30 or 35, I don't see Ohio State putting the backups in. No, why? You're sending a message. And that game's different. And I understand you have a game the following week, and it's a Big Ten title. Yes, that is real. What's also real is that Ohio State is trying to send a message. For the past 4 years, Michigan has owned the rivalry. Michigan has put Ohio State down, and they have found ways, even when the odds were against them in a large way. Couldn't think of the right word to say. You saw that Ohio State was more talented, but they weren't winning the game. And so now when the talent gap maybe is a little bit smaller, I think it may be actually larger than it has previously, that goes into why Ohio State should go into Ann Arbor and shut them up and do what they have done to everybody else all season. And I think that's going to be one of Matt Patricia's best games of the year, at least in the regular season. If you thought the game against Texas and Sark was big, man, wait till you see what Patricia has whipped up in his lab for Michigan. That's not a game that he's only going to prepare for during that week. He has been preparing for that game since he got on campus. And I can't wait. I absolutely cannot wait for that game to see what Patricia puts together and to see how he shuts down the always talking trash fan base of Michigan. I don't get it. I don't understand. A lot of them just talk trash. I have friends that are Michigan fans. Trust me. One of my good friends is an Ohio State fan who married a Michigan fan. And trust me, he doesn't really talk trash. Just one guy in particular. But there are some other Michigan fans that I know that always talk trash. I got a cousin who's always go blue, go. No, no, sir. No, sir. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. You don't see me around here gloating. I may wear a hat, maybe wear a shirt. I'm not running my mouth. Why? I ain't got to. Let's go on the field. Let's let the pads do the talking. Let's let the hitting do the talking. That's what I like. And then I would talk and reflect after what happens on the field. And I think this year in that game, I know it's UCLA week, y'all. I don't care. I'm tired of watching that team lose to Michigan. I'm tired of coming on this show 4 years in a row, reflecting live with you about a game that Ohio State should have won. Young Bucks getting experience, that's great in the first 11 games. Nah, Young Bucks, that game ain't for you. That's for Downs, Sand, Smith, Tate, Reese, Styles, both of them. It's for those dogs to go out there and to put the hurt on the Michigan Wolverines. I wasn't ready for expecting a Michigan conversation to come up today, but tired of losing to them, man. I know I'm not playing. I'm not playing, but I'm tired of watching Ohio State lose to that team. Tired of it. And I got a good feeling that's going to change this year. Thank y'all for tapping into Locked on Buckeyes and making this show your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked on Big Ten. Craig Keenan breaks down the most exciting conference in college sports from the rivalries to the championship and every game in between. Find Locked on Big Ten on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day. Now the number one sports podcast network. You can follow me on any social media platform at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. This has been Locked on Buckeyes on a Tuesday. We'll see you next time.